Ryan Elliott for Boxing News. We're in Newcastle. With me, Adam Booth. Adam, first and foremost, how are you?
Fine, thanks. You good?
I'm good, thank you for asking. Let's talk about it. Kelly Corzo this weekend, live on DAZN in Newcastle for it. Just concluded the press conference there. I wasn't expecting it to be quite as lively as that, I must say, but Corzo really seems to fancy the job.
Yeah, no, he's come to win. He's a stubborn, resistant, unbeaten South American fighter in his prime. So I'd be disappointed if he wasn't coming to win and he didn't have that belief in himself.
Seen many a fighter come over from South and Central America, perhaps with a bit of an unknown quantity. I can't confess to have seen too much of him, but the kind of fight I'm sure you guys haven't taken lightly. What can you tell us about Corzo?
That he is strong, resistant, world ranked number 9. Not going to go into too much detail. There's things he doesn't do, and there's obviously things he does do well because he's unbeaten. But this is, for me, this is all about Josh being the optimal Josh Kelly, not just for this fight, but for any of his fights. Because when Josh is only focused on him and he's being him, he's a nightmare for all of them.
I found it interesting you're talking up there about seeing the things that you've seen for years, and he's finally getting to this stage of his development. Just to go back to the Williamson fight, how much pride and satisfaction did it give you that we saw it over the championship distance? We started to get the glimpse of how good he could be.
Yeah, like I've never doubted Josh's tank. It was nice for him to win the British title, to close a chapter of a certain level of doubters out there, but also know how much more he's got. Like on that night, there was a game plan and a strategy, and he managed each round and he managed his energy. He knew that he had so much more that he could have done, but that fight wasn't the fight to take any risks. But we've worked on his physicality, and we've worked on not just him being, a nightmare for people to try and figure out, but actually a hurtful nightmare while they're trying to figure him out as well. And the progression of that's been really good over the last 6 months.
We've got 2 world-ranked fighters. Josh, number 2, the WBO. He's got rankings elsewhere as well. But Corzo, number 9. Was it a case of after coming through British level so strong, there's no point in waiting around or turning back?
It's exactly that. We believe that Josh is a world-class fighter. And the sooner he consolidates that position, the better. And that's what this fight's for.
I found it interesting that Canelo was saying, obviously, we've got the world rankings route and we're waiting to see what Charlo ultimately does. Everyone's kind of jockeying for position, including Josh, in those world rankings. But he mentioned these sort of big domestic fights as well. Josh seemed more keen on waiting for a world title opportunity. Do you kind of echo that?
Well, I echo both of them, if I'm honest. Like, Callum's a master at looking at commercial opportunities in the world of boxing, and he sees the names and the fights that could be made in Britain. And so I'm all ears and I'm open for those. But at the same time, Josh also wants to be the world champion. He wants to make money and be a world champion. And you've got 2 elements: that winning a world title may not make as much money as a big domestic fight. I've personally been involved in huge domestic fights that didn't have world titles involved. So I get it, it's the business. But like I said, Josh is ready now. He's in his prime. He knows he's in his prime. There's been a real mesh of his mental fortitude as well as his physical progression, along with his natural phenomenal talent. And I think he's coming into his prime, and whichever is the right fight for him now is the one that we're going to take. And having the backing of DAZN now is sort of the final thing that he needed.
Just a word on Michael Conlan. He spoke to us not too long ago and he was very frank. He said after the fight he considered retirement, but he seems in good spirits now. He seems ready to go again. What's the latest with him?
Bad day at the office. Like he said straight after the fight that he started to doubt himself in the change room, and he's never done that before in his life, amateur or pro. And everyone's entitled to a bad day at the office, especially with someone with the record and the fighting history of Mick. And so, yeah, we've had a chat, and he's absolutely determined that his journey's not over yet, that he still believes that he's got more to give than he's ever done before.
There's always going to be so many good fights to make around that way, but one fight that looks close is Leigh Wood versus Josh Warrington. I think Josh said he's agreed terms. Could it be a case of him kind of waiting for the winner of that?
Not necessarily, because people know that Mick on his day is a handful at best, and Leigh Wood knows that. But that fight is a great fight for British boxing, great fight for that region as well. Leigh Wood holds the trump card because he's world champion, and it's a natural fight to be made. So I'm looking forward to watching that one. Whether or not that becomes a route for Mick, time will tell.
So on Harlem Eubank back in action very soon against Ismail Ellis. Good domestic opponent. What are you expecting from Harlem?
For him to show what he's been adding to his game. Yet again, like Harlem now is coming into his prime. We're on the cusp of making a real significant big fight for him that hopefully will be signed before he steps in the ring next week. So there's a nice bit of pressure on him to know that he's got to perform, he's got to win, he's got to be clean in what he does, and do his job and be honest.
Another division where there's so many good names. I know the Dalton Smith fight's been spoken about, for example. Any hint as to what fight you're on about, that big fight?
No hint, because I don't want to curse it. There's something else to be put together first, and hopefully we'll be able to announce that next week.
A couple of things away from your stable before I let you go, Adam. 2 weeks out now from Spence Crawford. Can I get your breakdown and prediction as well, please?
Breakdown, it's a fight where pretty much every round is going to be closely contested, which is what you want from the elites in the sport. And for the, feels like this fight could have happened a couple of years ago, but we've got to be grateful that it's happening now. I think Crawford wins.
What do you think the difference will ultimately be?
Just those moments where one fighter can have an answer to a situation. I think Crawford has got the mental fortitude of a great champion, and I think he's got slightly more variety to his skill set than Spence, and I think that will be the edge.
We mentioned the 154 pounds picture, waiting to see what happens to Jamel Charlo. He's fighting Canelo Alvarez, came out of the blue. What do you make of the fight, though?
Interesting fight. Charlo's proven himself already. He's moving up in weight to fight Canelo. Don't think you can ever bet against Canelo. But again, just yet another great fight on Alvarez's resume.
One thing I want to get your thoughts on, Tyson Fury, Fury-Ngannou is taking all the headlines. It's not an exhibition. They are going to fight. What do you make of it?
Again, that's like some commercial exploitation in the world of boxing, and Tyson Fury's earned the right to take advantage of a situation like that. So kudos to him. As boxing people, we know we want to see him fight Usyk. That's the fight we want to see. And we want to see him fight AJ. But in absence of that, make a fight that captures the imagination of the wider public, the UFC fans, as well as boxing fans. So at the end of the day, this is combat sport and it's entertainment, and that's what that one is.
Final one, where Joshua White 2 has been announced. We're waiting to see the Jermaine Franklin fight. That was the right opponent for us to see this explosive Anthony Joshua again. He's very self-critical after the fight, but this Dillian White fight, with the history they have, do you think this is the fight for Anthony Joshua right now?
I think AJ's adding to his game and taking his time and building himself to becoming a better fighter, even though he's learning as world champion for such a long time. So I've got to admire the fact that he's doing it the right way. Another fight that I saw something pop up on my feed that I'd really love to see is Deontay Wilder against Andy Ruiz. I'd love to see that fight. I think that could be as entertaining as any heavyweight matchup.
Adam, thank you for making time for Boxing News. We'll catch you soon.